What's up everybody? So today's video, we're working on Dodge Dakota and I'm gonna show you how to replace the fuel pump. So I've got it, it's in the package. I'm gonna unopen it. Open it. We got Jonathan here. He's gonna help us because
do all the work because this guy's lazy. He doesn't do anything.
All right, Jonathan's not gonna be in today's video. And we're gonna be taking off the bed. You can drop the tank from the bottom or you can take the bed off. That one is up to you guys. It's not that many bolts, and as long as yours aren't seized or rusted, it should be easier depending on what's going on. So we're gonna lift the bed off the truck with the lift. Since we have the lift, might as well make it do the work. We'll take the bed off, get to the fuel pump section, change that fuel pump, and get started. So let me open this package. I'll show you guys what pump we're gonna replace it with, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we got Amazon package. We'll open it up. Boom. So this one we're gonna be replacing. It's an AEM high flow in tank. Can't open it because it's got tape filter. And so we'll use the whatever it takes knife. Open it up for you guys. So if it is what I thought it is, it's gonna have a little filter that goes on it. They're gonna give you some submersible hose. So the reason why I'm telling you guys that is because the hose that usually these come with, it's submersible. You can't go and just get regular fuel line hose. So if you need more than this length, make sure you get submersible hose, because if you get regular hose, it will actually deteriorate because it's being submersed on the outside with gasoline. So this type of hose resistant to gas on the outside and on the inside. So make sure you get something like that if you need something longer than this. And a couple other little things in here. I guess some sort of gasket, some sort of insulator. What else? Of course, we got the pump itself, and we have a connector and some clamps. So this should give us everything we need. But let's go ahead and we'll get the truck apart. We're gonna spin it around so we can take the bed off, and then we can drive the truck out and just be exposed. So let's get that done. So we got the truck up in the air and we're gonna remove the bolts. Okay, all of our bolts are removed. The only thing left is these 3 Torx bits, 1, 2, 3. But we gotta bring the truck down to accomplish that. Let's get it down. So here's the setup that we got, and I can't expect you guys to all have this kind of setup, but like I said, either some people that can help you lift it off, or what we're gonna do is just use the power of the lift to get this thing off. So I'm gonna go ahead and just raise it straight up. All we did was just attach it to all the bed points. So there, and then if we go over here, you can see we attached it down there, just 4 ratchet straps. And then Jonathan's just gonna remove these Torx screws here, and then we can lift this thing up. We'll pull the truck out probably to about here, and we'll work on it right here and take that fuel pump out. Okay, so after you remove these 3 screws, that's all loose for your filler. We can go ahead and lift it up. Okay, so that was super easy, you guys. We lifted it up and we just rolled the truck forward by hand. Thanks to John here with his superhuman strength. And here's the truck. You can see now our fuel pump is gonna be right there, and I'm also gonna clean this up at the same time. I'm gonna get rid of this heat shield because for our purposes it doesn't do much, and I don't really need it, want it. It's not gonna be much of weight saving since it's aluminum, but it's just something extra in the way that I don't need or want. Dude, honestly, this would be almost the same time that you would do the
C-notch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it now, but oops, I might have just let out a secret. But at some point we're gonna have to lift the bed here and tackle that as well. Reason being is you can see the distance we have between the frame and there. I mean, by the time you jump on it or John gets his fat ass on here, it pretty much bottoms. So I mean, this is without the bed. I don't know what this probably weighs. What did he say that weighs? Like maybe a couple hundred pounds at least.
200, I would say too.
This thing's pretty heavy. I don't even want to shake it, but it's heavy. So at some point, and you guys can see I don't have bump stops installed. So I do have to put bump stops in. Maybe, I wonder if we could thread our bump stop into there, because I still have those bump stops.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, we might see. We're gonna clean it up. Regardless, I have to clean this area since we're gonna be taking off. I don't want any dirt falling in our tank. So we'll do that, and then we'll keep going. All right, give it a couple shots of that new exhaust. Sounds pretty crazy. All right. So he's gonna roll it out, and then we'll clean up the bed or frame for the bed area. There you have it. We have this thing off and the bolts removed. And now it's starting to look a little bit more presentable. So, bed is off. Now it's clean, and we can go ahead and start removing stuff. All right, so we're gonna remove this. You could probably just swing it out of your way, but just for simplicity, it's just a rubber line. We'll pop that off. And then you're gonna have your little safety clip. So this was all covered in dirt, so I would imagine this thing's gonna be a little bit stuck. So the red clip, and then we'll squeeze this guy. That chunk of dirt was holding my latch from lifting, so there we go. All just nasty dirt in there. Okay, so that connector is off. And then see these two little blue tabs? You're gonna push your fuel line in, and then you're gonna push these blue tabs, whatever form or fashion, to release it. There we go. So there's that one, and then there's this one, and then this will come off. Oh. Okay, so that's that, and then now we just have to unscrew this big ring. There we go, and we're gonna wipe up all this dirt too before we remove it. So we're gonna have to try to let it drain as much as possible.
Why is there so much?
Because we did this the nice way with over half a tank of gas. I don't know if we'll be able to get much of this out. You'll want to watch out though, because you'll see this part here. This is your fuel sending unit, which is telling your gas gauge how much gas you have in the vehicle. So you're gonna have to tip this thing to get that out. If you try to yank this out straight, you'll snap it. But this thing is full of gas, and I don't really want to tip it right now, but it looks like we're gonna have to. So we're gonna take this out, dispose of this properly, and then we'll come back. So I'm just gonna lift this out of here. All right, so here's the basket all out and removed. You're gonna see these tabs, so 1, 2, and 3. So you're gonna have to depress that off of here so you can slide and get this thing off. So, because you're gonna have to separate the two parts. So you're gonna have to figure out a way, and I'll probably end up sticking a screwdriver in here to pop that off of that. There we go. Okay. Man, that freaking hose is like never been separated before in its life. So inside there's this little clip. So we're gonna have to detach that because the wires are getting tight at this point. So we'll remove this clip if I can get my hands in here. There we go. There we go. Now we can separate the two, but it's still definitely tight. So I'm gonna take this filter off. This plastic is super brittle after sitting in gasoline for 20 years. There we go. There's that. So see here where the brown wires go in for the fuel sending unit? There's two little latches in here on this post. Okay, so you can actually get to that hole from the back here. So I would recommend going in here and inserting two little tiny screwdrivers and lifting up those tabs. So it's still difficult, but this is the way we're getting it done. So we're gonna have to unpin these two brown wires from the fuel sending unit. So in order to do that, you gotta pop out this green clip from here. She gone! And then you can see here these little latches. So we're gonna lift these up on each brown wire and unpin it. We're gonna lift it from the front. And then we'll slide this wire out from the back. lift it up here. Ta-da. Same thing here. I don't think the polarity matters, but just in case, we don't want to be redoing all this. So we're going to clean off one of the wires. You guys can use whatever marking methods you guys want. Okay, there we go. So now I can get my brown wires. I'm gonna move the fuel sending unit out of here. It just has this one little latch here, and then you can slide it out. So I'm just gonna remove it so that we don't bust it. And then we're back to the struggle of getting this thing removed. So we should have a little bit more clearance to get at those latches. All right, guys, so we got 5 million screwdrivers in there, 2 here to release that. I got all these to try to release there, and ta-da! She comes out.
Finally.
So there is that mess out of there. And let me dissect this thing, and we can continue. So a couple things. Some guys are able to reuse that connection. They end up cutting it here, and then I think they said hot water. It doesn't make sense why they use hot water, but they're able to put this on to the new pump, and pretty much all of this is gonna go. It's just gonna be hanging here off the baskets, and this goes as well. Let's disconnect here. There's that. And then we do have to disconnect it here. So like I said, most guys just end up slicing it and taking that off, because I don't think we'll be able to get that off in any nice way. So I just bent that over like this. And now I should be able to just pop this off. Like so. There we go. So the clamp is off. There's the clamp. So, cool. All right, so we're starting to get situated here. So we have the AEM pump. It sits beautifully in here. And then inside here, I showed you guys that I did manage to get this off clean, but definitely keep an eye out for this, because I don't know if you guys can see it, but see that little metal piece in there? Hopefully you guys can see that. Inside there, the actual top of the old pump, the little metal portion is stuck in there. So I'm gonna end up chopping this hose, and then some guys said they kind of heated it up and managed to slide it over top of the new pump. So there's the metal portion that I was mentioning that's stuck in there. So I just slid it off there, so at least it has this rounded edge there, and there is the piece that I removed from there. So I want to explain how the stock fuel system works for you guys. Don't mind the mess, but I'll do my best to explain. So here is the stock pump that I dissected. So what would normally happen, and here's the bottom of the basket. So right here, this part that I showed you I removed, this is a metal cap, and there's a little diaphragm in there. So it's kind of like a one-way check valve. So it'll let fuel in, but it tries to use that portion at the bottom to not let fuel out of the basket. Then you saw this first fuel filter or screen right here. So that one was sat there. So what would happen is, in order to fill this basket up with fuel, the pump had 2 characteristics to it. So it had this here in the center, and that would divert the fuel out the side. So it would suck fuel up through the center and spit it out the side, which would fill this basket. Then it would have this large actual filter that would sit on here, and it would suck fuel from inside of the basket, and it would pull it through here into the filter or actual pump and send it on its way down your fuel line. So what we're trying to do right now is, I'm torn between leaving this check valve on here. I'm not going to put the screen on the bottom, because if I were to leave the screen with the actual check valve on there and then put this inside without having a tight seal on the bottom of here, it wouldn't have a way of, you know, drawing fuel into here like the stock system did, because there was also this rubber gasket on the inside and the bottom of this pump to properly seal and bring the fuel in there. So I'm not going to do that, but what I am trying to decide between, there's 2 ways to kind of do this. Either we put this sock in here with that fuel pump. This is the sock that comes with the AEM. Either we put that in there and you cut this open to allow more fuel in, or even leave the check valve there so that it stays full with fuel. Or we cut this open and we put this fuel sock on the bottom and put our pump on the bottom here, and we just open this up enough that we can connect this on. So it's one or the other. I tested this just by sinking this into the tank, to see. And if you put this into the tank with the check valve, it naturally will fill with fuel, as you can hopefully see. So if we just drop this like that, this will fill with fuel. But the issue is, how fast are we going to be running through that fuel? Will it draw quick enough or not? And it's a check valve, so it holds the fuel in there. So that would fix any sloshing issues that we may have, but at the same time might also starve the pump. So that's kind of where we're at with this whole thing. So I think what we're trying to do, and I think what we might end up doing, is just opening this up so that the sock can be over here and try it that way. So I'll figure this out and then we'll continue. Also, before reassembly, I'm going to remove these two tabs, and I'm instead going to put a screw in here to hold this basket in place, because this makes it very difficult to get apart. So if I ever want to disassemble this again, I don't want to be fighting with these two tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those two tabs, or at least the latches on them, so they don't catch. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to put probably a screw through here to hold everything in place. Okay guys, so that's where we are there, and there is the pump on the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and I will connect this filter on the bottom there. So that's pretty much the setup, and the more I think about it, so the way it's going to happen is that filter is going to essentially be down there, and that is the very bottom of the tank. So that's where the old filter, wherever that thing was, this one was down here too. So, I mean, if the old filter was in the exact same pickup location, there's really no, I mean, if this couldn't pick up from there, you'd be out of gas. So the new pump has to be able to pick up from there. Yes, maybe sloshing might be a factor, but the way the pump sits anyways is kind of has these little shields anyways. And not only that, but you'd have to be pretty low on fuel for it to be picking up air. So I think we should be good. I was debating, like I said, leaving this whole thing in there with the check valve and maybe trying to utilize the basket, but this is going to be the way that we're going to have the least amount of restriction, and I don't want to be pulling this out again. So least amount of restriction, potentially maybe a little bit of sloshing issues, but I don't think we're going to run into that. If anything occurs like that, I'll keep you guys up to date, but this is the way we're going to do it. Let's keep going. So now we're going to attempt to get the hose onto here, and this is that plastic hose. So I'm going to go ahead and probably just heat this up ever so slightly. So I'm going to try maybe heat gun, and I'll see if I can warm this up so I can slide it over top of our new pump. Okay, so I messed with that for a while, trying to heat it up, and this pipe is just so rigid, maybe old and petrified at this point from being in years of fuel. I went ahead and they include the submersible line. This line is so stiff that it's not going to collapse. So what I went ahead and did is the line that they include, the rubber portion, it's actually a very nice snug fit over top of the hard plastic line. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this, and then I'll connect this end to the tank, and they actually include two band clamps. So I think we're good to go. I'm going to do that instead, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to stretch that to get it over there. It's just next to impossible. You can kind of, like, it would end up kind of melting a little bit, and just, I could get it so hot to the point where I was melting the line, and I still can't slide it over. So this will be a good way and a much easier way and save me a ton of headache and stress. So I'm going to put it together with this. And we'll also plug in our wiring harness. Make sure the polarity is correct. So this one actually is a direct plug and play into this, and make sure that the positive wire is on the same positive as your pump. On this one, it's actually marked right there as well. So just make sure, and make sure your latch also clips in nicely as well. So let's go ahead and get this on here. So we'll go ahead and plug this in. You'll hear this nice click, and that is fully seated. And now finally I can put this into here. So if you're wondering why I did that, why I assembled the pump out here, I feel like it's a little bit easier than trying to do it in the bottom of the basket. And then I can tuck my pump back in now that all my connections are on and tight. All right, so I'm using the included rubber portion, this kind of sock that was included with the AEM kit. So I'm gonna put that in here because it allows for further extension of this. So that way it can hold this, it's snug in here, and I don't have to fully push it all the way up, because this pump overall is a little bit shorter than the stock assembly, I can hang this a little bit lower, and you can see my pump is not going anywhere, but it's snug in here as well in this boot. So that way it can decide where it needs to land once we put it inside the actual rest of the basket. So I don't know if this is gonna work, but I wanted to try it anyways. So what I wanna try and do is see if I can put this sock on the end, and I put a tie wrap around it to try to make it fit through here. So my idea is if I can somehow slide this in and through here, which it should be able to tuck it in. If I can pull this through, there's this little rubber nice stopper that AEM includes, and I can put it right here. But the problem is with this stopper is you have to have this on with that all at the same time. So you have to have that with your retaining clip so that you can have this rubber stopper. And the reason why I want this in here is I think it'll be a nice bumper for the bottom portion here. So that's just the bottom, you know, just so it's not dangling in the bottom, it'll have a nice rubber stopper for the bottom of the basket. So I'm just gonna test fit it. I'm not gonna put my clip in. I'm just gonna shove this on and see if I can pull this through. If I can, great. If not, then we'll come up with plan B. Let's see if I can fit this through like I'm wanting to. Looks like it might work. All right, so it looks like my little theory is gonna work with that rubber thing there that can just kind of sit on the bottom so that the pump is actually secure. So I'm gonna pull this back out and I'm gonna secure my filter on there finally, and I'll put that little retaining clip in there and we'll continue. So in case you guys end up doing this, I ended up removing that much rubber from the bottom of this little rubber thing, whatever you wanna call this. And it's probably about almost a quarter of an inch, I would say. So I removed that, and that seems to be the perfect amount so that my pump is still fully seated and this is on the bottom. And it gives it kind of just a buffer so it's not bouncing around on the bottom of the tank. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna put this on. I'll put my retaining clip on, and then I can slide this rubber in and we can fully assemble it. Here's the little retaining clip. It's kind of just one of these little star clips that you have to push on, and it goes one way, so you want to make sure the beveled portion goes up. So there we go, our little star clip is on. We can go ahead and put this rubber in place. So our rubber is in place so that it can have something to sit on the bottom. We'll go ahead and we'll pass this through. Out the end comes our filter. And we'll fully seat everything, and we can let this fan out. And last but not least, it's gonna start to get a little bit crazy over here, but we still have a few more things to do. I have this little screw. Instead of having the clip there like I showed you, so I now have a hole here with this screw that holds this in instead of the clips in here, which I feel like is just a better way, so that if I ever need to remove this or inspect it or maybe change my setup in some form or fashion, I can do it with ease. So this is my better way of doing it, I feel like. Now the only thing I need to do is just reattach my fuel sending unit, so the fuel indicator, and put the pin and wires back in here. So you'll want to make sure this thing, which goes above here, it's some sort of spacer. Make sure you don't lose that if you take the fuel sending unit off. And then we'll slide this back in place. Just make sure you're conscious of that. So the fuel sending unit's back in place, and you can see it doesn't interfere with our sock or filter whatsoever. And then we're gonna take our two wires, we're gonna send them back up through here, and we can pin these back in. So if you guys remember, we put just the regular one on this side, and the shiny one was here. I don't know if it matters on polarity, but I don't feel like doing this again. We'll clip this back in. There's one, there's two, and then we'll put in our locking tab once again. So just make sure this is fully seated. So there we go, our green clip is back in. Now we can go ahead and send this up as well. So we'll send our wires up to the top and get ready for this to click back together. And the only thing to be aware of is just which three tabs go where. So you can see this is a fatter clip and a fatter slot, as opposed to here, it has a skinny clip and a skinny slot. So just make sure you got them in the right place. Go ahead and click all these in, like so. So there's that. And last but not least, we just need to connect our connector inside here. There we go with that. We'll go ahead and click this in. And that's it. Our fuel sending unit is all back together. We got our pickup now on the bottom and we're all set. So I had just a paper towel over top of the whole time with the ring, just so no dirt got in there. We'll remove that. And just as simple, we're going to tuck this in, same way that it came out, like so, for our fuel sending unit. And this is all gonna go in the same way. So you'll also see a little arrow right here. It lines up with the little tab, in case you're wondering. So that little arrow, there's 2 notches right here on the tank. So make sure you line those 2 up, and then we're gonna push this down and we'll put our ring on. All right, so we got the truck running, but just be aware when installing a larger volume fuel pump like this that it's gonna run a little bit richer. So I actually had to put my foot on the gas to get the truck to start. I thought maybe there was a priming issue, but it wasn't that. I did have to adjust the throttle body a little bit, just get a bit more air until we actually tune it and back down the injector duty cycle. So just keep that in mind if you guys are doing something similar, that it's gonna run a little bit richer. So anyways, let's go ahead and throw this box back on. We're gonna raise this up, and then we'll back the truck in and set it back down. So there you have it. The truck is up in the air, and you don't necessarily have to have the truck in the air to do this, but it just makes it easy since we got the lift. And we'll just have to slightly bump over the actual bed just so it lines up with the different holes. So once you have it up here, I mean, it does slide around a little bit. So depending on which way you gotta go, you can kind of just grab it and slide it around. So we'll get everything aligned, then we'll fire the bolts in. And don't forget to plug back in your taillights. So we'll go ahead and plug in both sides. So it's just a quick connection. So I'll do that. I can't do it with one hand. And then the other one is over here and also connects to there. All right, let's put the truck back down and put those last 3 screws in. All right, folks, that's it for today's video and the installation of a larger fuel pump or higher volume fuel pump in one of these older Dodge products. So I would think that there's probably a similar fuel pump in the Ram as well. So you could probably use this video to do one of those. So just keep in mind when you do start it that it is gonna run richer. It's supplying more volume. I don't think the in-tank regulator is really gonna be able to keep up with that. At least that's my experience on my vehicle personally. So it is running a little bit richer. We're gonna have to tune that out of it. So I'm assuming if you were gonna do this, you were gonna be tuning it anyways. I don't think you'd be upgrading to a higher volume fuel pump and just leaving it as is. So that would be my recommendation. I'll keep you guys posted how it works, how it's running, and anything that comes of this. But as of right now, we're all set, good to go. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Also check out that join button down below. You guys can join Team Boosted Motorsports. A bunch of perks, check it out. Or any of the merchandise, support your boy. Thanks for watching, see you on the next one.